I never believed that the darkness beneath the earth could speak until the night I heard the screams echoing from deep below. I had worked as a drilling technician for many years and thought I had heard every strange noise that an underground tunnel could produce. But nothing prepared me for that chilling experience. It started as a normal evening shift at the drilling site, a place where the clamor of machines and the hum of heavy equipment were the usual sounds. I was working with a group of colleagues who had become like brothers, sharing jokes and stories to pass the time during long nights. That evening, however, the routine was shattered by an eerie sound that made my blood run cold. I was monitoring the drilling process when I first noticed an odd fluctuation in the equipment's readings. The drill, which had been steadily advancing into the unknown, seemed to hesitate as if it had hit something more than just layers of rock. I stepped closer to the control panel, trying to understand the anomaly. The others had already gathered around, their faces a mixture of curiosity and concern. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream, raw and filled with despair, erupted from somewhere below. It was not a sound that could be explained by machinery or the wind. It was a sound that belonged to a living, tortured soul. In that moment, time slowed down. I felt my heart pounding as I tried to rationalize what I had heard. My mind raced with possibilities. Could it have been an animal trapped in the crevices of the rock? Or was it simply an echo distorted by the cavernous underground? Yet, deep down, I knew that no animal could produce a sound so human, so filled with agony and terror. The scream echoed again, this time louder, as if calling out from a place of endless torment. I could not ignore it, and I knew that I had to find out the source of this unearthly cry. After a brief discussion with the crew, we decided to pause the drilling operation. The equipment was shut down, and we all gathered around the entrance of the tunnel, our faces illuminated by the harsh light of our flashlights. The darkness beyond the entrance seemed to swallow the light whole, and an unsettling silence replaced the usual background noise. I took a deep breath and stepped forward into the tunnel, my heart heavy with dread yet driven by a need for answers. Every step I took felt like a descent into an abyss where reality and nightmare merged. As I moved deeper into the tunnel, the atmosphere changed drastically. The air grew colder and heavier, and an almost tangible sense of sorrow seemed to cling to the walls. I could feel an inexplicable pressure, as if the darkness itself was trying to push me back. My flashlight flickered sporadically, and in one of those moments I thought I saw shadows moving where there should have been only still darkness. I pressed on, determined to discover the source of the scream that had haunted my dreams since that night. The further I went, the more intense the silence became. It was as if the tunnel was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I recalled the stories that some of the older workers had told about strange occurrences and legends of the underground, a place where souls were said to be trapped, where ancient curses lay hidden in the dark corners of the earth. I had always dismissed those tales as mere folklore, but now I began to wonder if there was some truth to them. Each step I took felt like a step further away from the world I knew, and a step closer to something dark and unknowable. After what felt like an eternity, I reached a point where the tunnel widened into a cavernous chamber. The walls of the chamber were covered in strange markings and symbols, as if etched by an unknown hand over centuries. In the center of the chamber, there was a deep fissure in the ground, a gap that seemed to lead to an even darker realm below. As I approached the edge of the fissure, the scream returned. This time it was softer, almost pleading, and it seemed to come from within the abyss itself. I could not see the bottom of the fissure, only an endless void that swallowed all light. Standing at the edge, I felt a wave of nausea and an overwhelming urge to turn back, but curiosity and a sense of duty drove me forward. I peered into the darkness and could almost see shapes moving in the gloom. The scream, though distant, resonated with such emotion that it felt as if it was calling out directly to me. I thought of my family, of my friends, and of all the things that made life worth living. The possibility that there was a tortured soul down there, lost in a place of eternal suffering, was too terrible to ignore. I decided to record everything with my camera, even though I knew that no one would believe what I was about to document. My hands trembled as I set up the device, and I whispered my observations into the recorder, hoping that my words would capture the intensity of the moment. The silence of the chamber was broken only by the faint echo of the scream and the sound of my own heartbeat. Every second felt like an eternity as I stared into the void, trying to make sense of what I was witnessing. In that dark abyss, I began to sense a presence. It was as if the very walls of the chamber were alive, pulsating with a sorrow and anger that defied explanation. The sound of the scream gradually shifted into a low, mournful wail that seemed to vibrate in my bones. I felt compelled to speak, to ask the darkness why it was filled with such pain. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice barely audible in the vast emptiness. There was no immediate reply, only a lingering echo that made me shiver with dread. As moments passed, I felt a strange connection with the void, as if the darkness was communicating with me in a language beyond words. I could almost feel the anguish of a soul trapped in a place of eternal despair, a spirit that was crying out for release. The overwhelming sorrow in that place was infectious, and I found myself weeping as I listened to the sound of the lament. I realized that this was not just a random noise or an anomaly in the rock, but a genuine cry for help from a spirit condemned to suffer in a hidden hell beneath the earth. The experience left me shaken to my core. I slowly backed away from the edge of the fissure, my mind racing with questions that had no answers. What force could trap a soul in such a terrible state? Was it the result of some ancient curse or a punishment for sins long forgotten? I thought about the stories of cursed lands and vengeful spirits, tales that had once seemed like nothing more than myth. Now, standing in the cold, dark chamber, I could not deny that there was a truth to them. A truth that was far more horrifying than any story I had ever heard. I returned to the entrance of the tunnel with a heavy heart. The image of the abyss burned into my memory. My colleagues and I stood in silence as I recounted what I had seen and heard. Many of them were skeptical, insisting that it must have been the result of our imagination or the eerie acoustics of the cavern. Yet in their eyes I saw a flicker of doubt, a question of whether the legends of a hidden hell might indeed be real. I kept the recording as evidence, though I knew that proving such an experience would be nearly impossible. Since that night, I have not been able to forget the sound of that tortured scream and the overwhelming despair I felt in that underground chamber. It has haunted my dreams and left me with a lingering fear of the dark places beneath the earth. I have spent many sleepless nights wondering about the spirit trapped in that fissure, hoping that one day someone might come to free it, or, at the very least, understand its pain. The experience taught me that some mysteries of the earth are not meant to be unraveled, and that the darkness holds secrets that are best left undisturbed. Every time I pass by a tunnel or hear a faint sound in the distance, I am reminded of that night. I am reminded that there are forces beyond our understanding, forces that can reach out from the depths of the earth and touch our souls. I share my story not to scare people away from exploring, but to remind them that the world is full of mysteries, and sometimes the truth is more terrifying than fiction. My experience has changed me forever, and I now live with the knowledge that beneath the surface of our everyday world lies a realm of sorrow, despair, and unimaginable horror. I try to hold on to the hope that there is a reason behind the suffering of that lost spirit, even if I may never understand it fully. The memory of the wailing from deep within the earth remains with me, a constant reminder of the fragile boundary between our world and the unseen forces that dwell below. I have come to realize that life is filled with questions that may never have answers, and that sometimes the quest for knowledge leads us to places where light cannot reach.